welcome to the Sci-Fi Queens podcast, where we celebrate all things sci-fi, especially the women in science fiction, real female scientists, and sci-fi book and sci-fi comics as well. If you're new here to our channel, we ask that you hit that subscribe and notification bell, as it will help our channel grow. We really would appreciate it. If you want to support our channel, just go to our website, sci-fi queens.net. You'll see there scrolling at the bottom of your page, you'll have information on the queens, information on our shows, as well as a link to our merch store. I am your host, Nita. And tonight we have a very special guest, Corey. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Queens.
Hello.
And of course, the queen of the nerd, the goddess and brains of this operation here, Tiffany. How are you doing today? Sarah won't be here tonight with us. However, we miss you, Sarah, and she'll be back next week, and she will be delighting us with her sci-fi
I'm here.
scientist.
I'm making it. That's all that matters.
That's right. That's right. Now, tonight we're going to be talking about Utopia.
Sorry, my internet is being.
Just give her a minute. She's got a little bit of a glitch. We're going to be talking about Utopia. And if you haven't heard of this concept, it's an imaginary place or state of things in which everything is perfect. This is something that you see a lot in Star Trek. The concept and idea that the world is in unison and everything is perfect and things are going well. And I know Tiffany has prepared some things for us. When her internet and technical difficulties are adjusted, she will let me know and we can share what she has for us tonight. But before we start, Corey, welcome to the Sci-Fi Queens. How you doing? What's going on with you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. This is my first time on any podcast, so I do appreciate the invite. It's a great honor. I've heard about this podcast so much from your videos, so it's an honor to be here. I'm excited for this. I do love sci-fi. I'm a bit of an enthusiast myself, so I can't wait to discuss this with you.
Excellent. And you are most welcome. We are honored that we are your first podcast. I hope we make this a very pleasant experience for you as well. And hopefully she will be back when her internet stops glitching. We will get Tiffany back. She prepared some information for us. So I'm excited to find out what she has prepared for us. But let's dive into Utopia. And we see that a lot. You and I are both sci-fi Star Trek nerds. Tiffany is back with us. Tiffany, how's it going over there?
I'm back. Let me fix my sound. But yes, I'm back.
Your sound is good. Your sound is good, actually. Now, we were going to dive into Utopia, but you prepared a little something. Do you want to share it now?
Yeah. Hold on. Sorry, my notes. Everything is loading slow, but basically what I have is that, a utopia, they present you with like this beautiful idea of everything is perfect. Like, for instance, like the Stepford Wives. In that neighborhood, everything was beautiful. The women were perfect, smiling and all that, cupcakes and everything. But it's at what price? There's always like a hellscape hidden underneath. There's something that's being done to the people of the utopia to make it this way.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Sorry. That is definitely interesting, because in Star Trek, Utopia is presented differently. So, Corey, you and I are Trekkies, and so is Tiffany. Talk to me about the Utopia that you found we see in Star Trek. So you prepared a few notes too, so bring it on, brother. Just bring it on.
Come on.
we just nerds in here having fun. That's okay.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, I need to write it down.
Hold on,
for me, like when I kind of started realizing this utopia idea, especially in Star Trek, being a Trekkie, I've been watching it since I can remember being 5 watching reruns of TNG with my mom, but as a kid, I never really paid attention to it much. But getting older, uh, there was a scene in First Contact, Star Trek First Contact, that really kind of like snaps, like, oh, whoa, okay. It's when Jean-Luc Picard's on the ship with Lily, and she's asking him how much it cost to build the Enterprise, and he's like, hold on, and he goes, economics work differently in the future. He goes, we don't work for consumers, and we work to better our lives. She's like, you don't get paid. and I was like, and I was like, that's actually kind of a neat concept. But the thing about Utopia, especially in the sci-fi world, I felt that there's usually always, like what Tiffany said, there's always that catch. There's always like that. It looks really good on the
Mm-hmm.
surface, looks great, but it's usually like a warning kind of wrapped around in a really pretty package and bow. There's always a warning to it. There's always that underbelly. You realize that there's a crack, or there's corruption there, because like even in Star Trek, you have the Federation of Planets. It's still kind of have that hierarchical society. You have this government officialship, and that could be seen as
Mm-hmm.
power, that could be seen as control. Is that something you should accept? Because yes, they did fix poverty. There's no war, no famine, no poverty, um, but at the same time you still have this quasi military organization, because the Federation, while they are science, their exploration, their scientists, they are still a form of a military. And I think they even kind of reference that in the original series films. They kind of go, great, the military is going to come involved, and they're making
Exactly.
fun of Starfleet. So it
Mm-hmm.
is, at what cost is it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tiffany?
Just like in our like everyday life now, like social media like hides like there's like curated lives. That's a form of a utopia too. If you follow your favorite creator and you're seeing everything they're putting out, and it's like, wow, that's like the perfect life. Like I think there was a Black Mirror episode about it.
Yeah.
Nosedive. And it's like that's a perfect life. That's a utopia. I want to live that life. But under you don't know what the underlying surface is. And like just to bring it back to my expertise in TV and movies, like the movie or the book The Giver, like it is a colorless, pain-free society where memories are controlled by one person, but everybody seems to be happy. There's nothing, they don't feel
Exactly.
unhappy, but it just shows the danger of like erasing history and emotions for safety
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because of course everything goes wrong. The perfection
Yeah.
is maintained through ignorance.
And that's what I was thinking when I was thinking about this topic today. I said, I asked myself, could in real world, could we achieve a Star Trek-ish utopia?
Right.
And I said, I don't think so. As much as I would love that life, I don't believe that's possible, because I believe that in order to achieve a level of unified perfection, you must all think alike. You must all
Mm-hmm.
erase so many undertones of racism and a
Mm-hmm.
hate and discomfort towards those that are different, that I don't think we're capable as a human society to
Mm-hmm.
really accomplish that. And that kind of made me a little sad, because, those of us who are fans of things like Star Trek, we see that and we're like, wow, awesome, perfect world. But
Right.
you have Star Wars that is more of a dystopia than it is
Yeah,
a
yeah.
utopia. And that I feel is more realistic
Right. Because
than
yeah,
anything.
there's always going to be that other side of people who don't want to conform and don't want
Hmm.
to, they don't show you how they got to this utopia, the people they had to get rid of, or how they had to form, people's minds. But there's always that
Hmm.
other side of, a faction, or like they want to say it's a revolution, or, like an outsider faction that doesn't agree with the way the utopia is run. And, so I think
Yes.
there would always be warring parties that I don't think there, like you said, there could ever completely agree with you. There could never be just one
Hmm.
pristine society where everyone follows the rules.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Go ahead, Corey. Go ahead.
the
Hop in.
the
Just jump
idea
in and talk.
the idea of a utopia, especially like in the realm of sci-fi and science fiction, it's some people I know look at it as like a blueprint. It's like, how do we get there? But it's really more, the whole thing I take away from sci-fi is the question of what if. It's like, what if we could do this? The issue about utopia is that you usually do, as we're kind of coming on here, you have to give something away. honestly, if you want to make utopia work, is it going to be your privacy? Is it going to be your individualism? Is it going to be your freedom?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so really that's kind of more the question. It's not how do we build this, it's what are you willing to give up?
Yeah.
Because the minute you start doing that, you become more dystopian. And the problem that I usually do see with utopias is that people often confuse it with like perfection, because
Yes.
it's and honestly that reminds me of Tron Legacy, and I'm on a Tron kick because I saw the Tron Ares trailer and I got super excited.
Right,
So
right.
and also it's like when we saw it's like, man, this reminds me of like Tron Legacy so much, but I because I was like that was kind
I
of the
can't
idea.
wait for Tron. I
I
really
know.
can't either.
It's like I'm bummed about Daft Punk because they broke up, but Nine Inch Nails I'm excited. But even then, Clue wanted he couldn't achieve perfection because it was unknowable. And even Kevin told him that, and he goes, "It's unknowable.
Mm-hmm.
You can't achieve it." And that's kind of the thing with utopias. They didn't call it utopia; they called it perfection. But it is kind of you want to achieve that. You can't. It's almost impossible because you're gonna have someone who doesn't want to conform to that because you are giving something away
Mm-hmm.
to achieve this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
And we
yeah.
see that in Star Trek. You see, let's say like Ferengis, right? They what the Federation would consider a utopia would not apply in Ferenginar, right? Because they don't have the quote unquote perfect world. There's too
Mm-hmm.
many. There's the huge patriarchy. The women can't leave the house, and it's about the
Mm-hmm.
money. But yet they've achieved the same level of technology, whether that was bought or stolen, they still have it as the Federation. Then you see the Klingons, right? They
Yeah,
have had a whole different experience. And they've been managed to hang on to certain cultural things. You see the Bajorans, that and they were technologically far more advanced at one point than even the Federation before they were dominated by Cardassia,
Mm-hmm.
and they lost so much, but they've had to hang on to certain things like their
yeah,
religion, right? And
Right.
that kind of destroys them because there's a lot of division among that. And that's the problem with utopia, that you again need to have everybody in the same mindset. And I think that Star Trek presents that idealism of everyone thinks alike, everyone feels the same, and it's kind of Steph wife that kind of
Stepford wives.
mentality.
Yeah, yeah,
Steph
yeah.
wife. So
Exactly.
thank you. It has
Exactly.
that feel
Exactly.
to it. It has
Yeah, it
that
does.
feel to it. And as big
Mm-hmm.
as fan as I am of Star Trek, and as much as I would love to think that that's the world we will one day have, I don't know.
How
In
to
the
get there?
current climate, yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
we get there.
yeah,
Not in our
yeah.
lifetime. I think
Mm-mm.
it's interesting also that we see a lot about Star Trek present this utopia, but we tend to forget what got them there. World
Yeah,
War III, where most of the population died
yeah,
and they
yeah,
were starving
yeah,
and there
yeah.
was no
That's what I was
government.
saying. They don't show
Hmm.
how what was what did the climate, what was the world before that, and kind of like I think we're kind of going in the way of a dystopia more in our current climate, just because you know
Oh,
how
Lord, yes.
we never know what tomorrow's gonna bring. Okay, at least in a utopia, they just live in blissfully ignorant. They're just but a lot of utopias, they rely on surveillance. So like
yeah,
they rely on people being watched constantly. And in our current society, we don't want to be watched constantly. I mean, unless we're putting our lives online, but private people don't want someone to know what they're doing all the time, what they're eating, what their kids are doing all the time. So I think that in terms of like real world applications, it wouldn't be possible in that way, just because people aren't
Exactly.
going for that. But
Hmm.
like in
Yeah.
TV and movies, kind of like the Divergent series, how everyone is like monitored
Yes.
monitored constantly, but it's like a perfect society. Everyone has their place, except those people who don't have a place. And I think there will be
And
more people who don't have a place than do
yes,
have a place. Is
exactly.
in
yeah.
that kind of yeah.
I think
Hmm.
we're more likely to see dystopia in reality than utopia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you? What do you think, Corey?
Well, I do think, especially when it comes to like the reason when it comes to utopias and sci-fi and like, can we achieve this? I don't think so. And I think a lot of writers in the sci-fi world, I'm not a writer and I don't try to say I'm speaking for all sci-fi writers when I say this, but I do think that I think psychologically humans are wired for drama. We are wired for like that
Mhm.
friction and
Mhm.
drama. And so when you're writing these stories, it could be either comics, novels, movies, shows. You can see it in Star Trek. It's still not perfect. You still have that drama in there because if you have utopia, this perfect world, nothing bad happens. No one's going to be interested in that. So you always do
Mhm.
have that underbelly. You always have something really bad is happening. And honestly, it kind of reminds me of the Culture series. I only read a couple of books myself, but essentially it's society ran by AI. There's no war, no
Mm-hmm.
nothing like that. But often society is asking, is this all there is?
Yeah.
Is there more to this? What's the point in all this?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I here?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so there's still that conflict, and I think if we don't have that conflict, and humans themselves, there's always going to be something because, like, even in Star Trek, we got rid of racism. Did we though? You still have a lot of stories and show many episodes where we are encountering um, racism. We are encountering
Yeah.
some planet that has famine and they have war and disease,
Mhm.
and then they get gridlocked because of bureaucratic nonsense from first. They're like, no, we can't intervene. It's like that's the whole point of us being here.
Right.
Exactly.
We can't,
Correct.
we can't
Yeah.
spread, this idea that everything can work if you don't let
Yes.
us succeed in this.
Mhm.
And so
Yes.
at the same point, there's still that bureaucratic stuff you got to go through, which is why even in Star Trek, the Federation isn't perfect as much as we like to say it is. It's not.
Yeah. It's not at all.
It's
Yeah.
like on the outside, yeah, it looks great, but it's like you got to look in those fine details. It's not. They
Yeah.
still got issues left and
Yeah.
right.
We got a comment from Mel. She tends to agree with you. You got to support her.
Thank you, Mel.
Yeah.
Welcome, Mel. She is
Yeah. Hey,
awesome. Check
Mel.
her out at Mel's Rebellion.
Hey,
She's an awesome
Mel.
podcaster too. But
Yes.
yes, and I think that you made me think about when you were saying that, Corey, about Section 31. Okay, not the movie that we all are traumatized over.
I haven't watched
Because
it, so
that's,
spoilers.
no
I was
spoilers.
gonna
We're not
say
going to
I
talk
am not
about
prepared.
that.
I was gonna say I'm not prepared to give comments at this time about that movie. I'm
No,
not
We're not
prepared.
going to talk about the
Please,
movie.
please, thank
We're
you.
not going to talk about the movie. We're going to talk about the action. I was mentioning the actual concept in
Okay.
Star Trek of if they had a true utopia, do you really need that?
Right. They need somebody who
Because
can step out the line.
exactly, they
Mhm.
do the things that no one else can do, that they
Mhm.
cannot officially do. They're the gangsters of the Federation.
Pretty much.
That's what they're doing. And does a utopia need this? Does a utopia need uh, any sort of policing? Because if everyone is of the same mindset, why do you need
Yeah.
policing? So
Yeah.
is it real? Is it real? And I tend to think that no, it's really not. Because as
Mm-mm.
much as the captains that we've had in Star Trek like to say they're explorers, you are a military.
Yeah.
Point blank. You're an
Yeah.
educated, highly trained, and diplomatic and military. You just
Yeah.
are. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I love Star Trek and I love exactly how it is. The good, the
Yeah.
bad, and the ugly. But the reality is that as much as we want to embrace something like that, I don't think that as human beings we naturally are capable of fully accepting
Yeah.
everyone at the same time.
We would have to
I,
sacrifice individuality. And
exactly.
that's what it is. And so
Hmm.
there's no utopia without sacrificing your individuality for the collective good. And
Yeah.
so there would have to be that, because even like in Star Wars, and before the Star Wars that everyone knows now, there was a golden age where
Yes, there was.
the Jedi were at the top of their game. Everything was perfect. They were still very much police though. In that age, they were the police. They were the law of the land, you know. They still
Mm-hmm.
had like, you know, senators and things like that, but they didn't really run things. But nothing was perfect, obviously, because shortly thereafter, a few hundred years later, everything went wrong because nothing is perfect. There's always an
Exactly.
outside group who have not sacrificed their individuality. They have another idea of how they think things should be run, and that brings in, you know, all kinds of disruptions to the utopia. So no utopia in sci-fi is ever safe from the dark side. It's never
Exactly.
safe from the Sith.
Yes.
Ever.
Yes.
Ever.
Because even during that golden age, there was that undertone
Yeah,
of
yeah. But they thought
it
they
is.
they thought they snuffed it out. There was a thought that it was snuffed out. They would
Mhm.
never rise again, things like that. They were like, this is great, this is perfect, everything is good. But
Exactly.
of
Yeah,
course,
history has a way of repeating itself. So it's like
yeah.
you do create, utopia in some way. And yeah, Star Wars was kind of that example because I know like when they wrote Star Wars and you have like that golden age and you have the Republic and you have the Empire and then you have like
Hmm.
the I can't remember what they call them the sequel, the New
The
Order.
New Republic.
Yeah, New
Yes.
Republic and and
Hmm.
and that history always found a way to repeat itself in that franchise, and you always have this idea. It's like, great, you created utopia, but what happens, a couple hundred years from now when we revert back to what it was prior? Because it always does. It
Yeah.
always usually does. Because uh, the whole idea of utopia was coined by his name was Sir Thomas More. He wrote it was like in 1516. He wrote a book, and I think it is translated to utopia, but the original translation was like no place. It was like the idea that it was like this island and that everyone lived there in peace and harmony. But I'm just like, okay, so when I read this, that's kind of where I was like, this may not be achievable because essentially you just kind of just let it go. And I was like, so there's no crime, there's no poverty, everyone just kind of lives as equals. But I'm just like, at some point though, someone's not going to like that.
Yeah.
Someone's going to it takes that one person to get on that island and say, I'm not going to do that. I don't like that. We essentially just have open huts that we live in, and there's no doors, no windows, everything's just open. And I'm like, I personally wouldn't like that because I
Yeah.
am more of a
Yeah.
private guy myself. So it's like I don't want people,
Yeah.
involved in
I'm
my
with
life.
you. Well,
Hmm.
I'm from New York City. I'm from Brooklyn. Doors get locked. Doors get
Yep.
locked.
Yep.
That's so.
Yep.
That reminds me of the episode of Deep Space Nine when Cisco and O'Brien get caught into this world where the planet. They can't get out. They can communicate. They've been living there
Hmm.
for years, and there are no doors, and people just walk into your little hut. Um, I don't think so. How would that work for me?
I'm not okay with this.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
no.
this
putting
is
up this
not
fake door,
okay.
guys. Don't mind me.
Make a
Yeah,
door. This
put a
isn't a door.
curtain, something.
This isn't a door. This is not a door. This is something else. It's
Mm-mm.
not a door.
Yeah,
This is
hmm,
closing my house, but it's not a door. But
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Even a curtain. They didn't even have like a little curtain, something. Like,
That's
wow,
crazy.
that's crazy. You
I don't think
know?
I've seen that one.
Yeah. Yes, that's some really good episode that really makes you think. Because it apparently was purposely created by the person that was leading them. And it was just a hot mess.
Mm,
But it was a good episode. But again, these are people who came from a utopia state, who lived in the Federation worlds, who had everything, replicators, education, everything handed to them. Yet they chose to leave this to find a world where they can go backwards in time and cultivate their own food, no replicators. And all crime was punished the same, and it was brutal, and it made me think, why is this utopia not good enough for these people? Why go back?
yeah,
Hmm.
I
So
would.
there's that question: why would you live in a utopia and choose to leave? Because you lose your individuality when you
Yeah,
live in
yeah.
utopia.
There's always there because and then who decides that it's perfect? Who chooses? Who says that this is perfect for everyone? This is perfect, no matter what
Yes,
you think. Yeah,
Usually
yes,
it's
comes
good.
down to the one particular leader says, "I have created paradise. Live here."
Right,
It's like, okay, that's your definition, and you may
right.
not understand it. And we got Clue. It's like you don't know what this is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Oh, and
true. It's very true.
and honestly, when I think of you like failed utopias, I think encounter at Farpoint because everything looks really good on the outside, like wow, everything's really great,
Yes.
but then you find out there's this entire this life form that's being tortured
Yeah.
Yeah.
every single second of its life to
Hmm.
achieve this. It's like, well, that's not fair. There's always like that caveat. There's always like,
Yeah.
it's great, but
Yeah.
Or
there's
like
more
the
to it here.
Matrix. This is a perfect world,
Yes.
but it's
It looks
not. It's not even real.
It's like the Matrix could be Utopia if you don't mind the machine slavery part.
Yeah.
If you
Machine
don't mind that,
slavery,
machine
Matrix.
slavery
You don't
part.
mind being, just being plugged in all the time. Then cool.
Yep,
Exactly.
Utopia.
I do
I
think
mean, think about the Matrix for a second, right? When you're in that, they were in the Matrix, they lived the life that we live, right?
Right.
Regular lives, ups and downs.
They knew
When they
nothing else. Right.
they knew nothing else. When they get unplugged, they realize they're in these cocoons that look like birthing cocoons with this
Yeah.
fluid,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they can't, they're so atrophied, their muscles are atrophied, they cannot move, and they have to go through all of this medical treatment that looks so antiquated, compared to when they lived in the Matrix.
Right.
And they're now living in a world where it's underground, because if you go above ground there's nothing but destruction.
Yeah.
um, but the world couldn't survive without the reality that we have now.
Yeah.
um, it's very telling about the psychology of humanity
Yeah.
and the emotional and environmental stimuli that keeps this world going, you know.
Hmm. Yes. It gets to me every time I think about it, just because it's like,
Yes.
because they always want to say, like, when something goes wrong in your day to day life, you're like, that was a glitch. That was a glitch in the Matrix.
That's
Something's
a glitch
going
in the
on. That was
matrix.
a
Yes.
glitch. I saw that cat already. There's a glitch.
Yes.
There's a glitch
Hmm.
happening. Or
Yes.
like they say, deja vu is a glitch in the Matrix. If you think you did this already, you probably did.
Yeah.
Your
And
code is
and
being rerun.
let me ask the two of you, what is perfect? Corey, how would you define that?
Yeah, I kind of say perfection is unknowable. It's kind of all around us,
Hmm.
honestly.
Hmm.
Everyone has their own unique definition, but perfection isn't really a thing. It's more, I think, more of a mindset. If we want to try to get as close to utopia as we can without having to, in my
Hmm.
mind, turns into dystopia. You really just have to go, okay, what can I do just to make the world a better
Hmm.
place one day at a time? And that's really newer sci-fi has kind of come out about that. Was it Solar Punk? I heard about. I haven't actually read them, but it's like they take a different approach to utopia. It's not like you're creating a perfect society. It's like we're just trying to make the world a better place, but they do it more in
Hmm.
a sci-fi setting. And that's
Yeah.
honestly, I think, more the approach we might need to take because instead of trying to create this perfect society, it's like let's just help each other, guys. Let's just
Hmm.
use our knowledge of science to improve instead of just yelling at everybody, yelling at each other. Because right
Exactly.
now, as a society, we have more of like our position is like, what's my status in society? We focus more on like, where do I stand among everybody else? Am I higher than these people? Am I lower than them? Um, I've noticed that a lot, especially just when it comes to just like ownership of personal property, and until people give away that mindset, it's going to be a pretty hard thing to achieve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 Hmm.
So would you
Absolutely.
accept a controlled life if it meant peace and safety?
Um, I
Mm.
I think it'd be again, it would be like, am I having to give anything up? Are we
Yeah.
having to give up individualism or freedom?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah.
going to be the ultimate question. That's going to be the deciding factor. And I think for most anybody you'd ask, they'd go like, "Well, do I get to be myself?" Because if the answer is no, you're going to have a hard
Hmm.
time trying to sell
Nope.
that
You
to
gotta
anybody.
change. And utopias fail because humans want perfection. They think they want perfection, but what they really want, like you said, is just freedom to be who you want to be. And you can't be who you want to be if everybody needs to be the same.
It is so true.
If
And
everybody
let
It
gotta
me
is
wear
so
the
very
same gray
true.
clothes and be the
so
same,
we're promoting the collective, I guess. Let's do
right?
that.
You're promoting the Borg.
Oh my goodness.
So who wants to volunteer to be
Oh
the
my
Time
goodness.
Queen?
I so want to be the Borg queen. She is so cool. Come on, guys. She's awesome. She
You
got
know,
data to think about joining her for 30
listen,
seconds or something, you know?
like,
As long as I get to hang out with 7 to 9, sure, why not? But
But it's true. I mean, in
yeah,
order to achieve, and I think that that's where we as a society kind of go wrong. We don't need to
hmm
look for the perfect government or the perfect society or the perfect neighborhood or the perfect home. We
yeah,
need to look for what suits our needs and what best accommodates culture
hmm
and environment and our,
hmm
belief systems, whatever that may be, and that makes it comfortable for us. And I think that when we stop trying to break down
yeah,
everything in this world that helps others, what am I talking about? It's important to know that, we shouldn't do that. We should be focused on growing as human beings,
yeah, yeah,
investing in the sciences, investing in technology,
yeah,
investing in cultivating a cultural and societal harmony with other countries and other places in the world.
yeah,
For me personally, I think of for me, a utopia is an island because I grew up in Puerto Rico, so sun all the time. But someone who perhaps grew up in Alaska,
hmm
that may be something completely different
yeah,
for them,
yeah,
And does that ideal fail in comparison to mine? Is it better? Is it worse? That's where individualism comes
yeah,
in, and that's
yeah,
where no, we need to embrace that we are different, and that's okay, and we need to embrace those differences and say, hey, that's okay, let me learn about you, let me grow
yeah.
with you,
Yeah,
you know
I think that and I'm gonna talk about this more later when I do my segment, but in the
Woo.
series of Wheel of Time, they had a perfect society in the age before they're in now. In that age, the age of legends, they had a perfect society where there was no
Mhm.
hunger, there was no war, everything was great, everybody lived happily, but their scientific progress and things that they wanted to explore further is what eventually broke down the world. You know,
Yeah,
they so I that's the thing. I think my idea of a utopia would be where no one's hungry, no one's dying for no reason. Everyone can live their own individual lives. We don't have to really worry about too many things. Everything's not
access to
overpriced.
health care.
Right, like everything's not overpriced. We can be treated,
Yeah,
things like that. I think then things would, our governments now don't think it would run smoother, but things would run so smooth if no one had to fight for food. Just in general, like
exactly.
that. That's just the bottom line
Hmm.
utopia. Everybody can eat.
Yeah,
Everybody can go to the doctor. Done.
exactly. When you have to make a decision between going to a doctor and paying your rent,
Yeah.
there's a problem
Yeah.
with how things are done. And that's dystopia to me.
Yeah, for real. For real. I agree. I agree. I agree. Have you guys seen the
Mm,
movie The Island? I think it was like 2005 or something like that.
oh
Right.
yes.
yeah,
They were like living in a medical facility and they thought everything was perfect. Turns out they were like used to harvest organs or something. Like I think about that movie all the time for some reason. Maybe it's because I love Ewan McGregor, but it's like I always think like, what if there's somebody out there right now being harvested for their organs, but they think they're living a perfect life, but they're a clone.
yeah.
I think about that all the time. I don't know why.
I do remember that movie when I saw it in theaters. My parents actually were shouting "Felix" when
Right,
he was in
right,
the movie. So I was like, "Hey, I know him. Where's his makeup?"
right, right.
But yeah, that's one messed up movie, and I was like, that one really kind of just
It
it got to
sticks
me
with you. It
Mm,
sticks with
because I'm
you.
just like,
yeah,
it's just like our healthcare system is a nightmare.
Yeah,
That's the only thing is it just
that's
bugs
yes,
me.
exactly. But if you're rich, you can get a clone that will grow
Yes.
organs for you, and you're fine. You're
All
good.
right.
yes,
We'll kill
absolutely.
your clone real quick and harvest blood. Though you need new liver. Yeah, got it. It's on its way.
Talk about going binge
Insane.
drinking and not worry about your liver.
You're like, I'm fine. I have a
I
clone.
got
Back
I got
up.
an extra. It's
I
good.
got
It's
a
all good.
clone. We're good. We're good to go. Yeah,
Exactly.
no.
Yeah. But those are the sacrifices you make in order to achieve what's not real. At
Yeah.
the end of the
Yeah.
day, it's just not real, you know? But before we move on to our next segment, that is for Tiffany, Corey, do you have any kind of closing thoughts on this utopia?
I would simply say this: if you're living in a utopia society and it's not answering any questions that you have to go, is this really a better place? It's probably just from a propaganda.
Oh,
um,
yeah.
because it's like they're probably withholding something from you. I would just simply close out with this: that utopias probably aren't feasible. So it's really more of a focus on just what can we do as individuals to help make the world a better place for everyone, and try to
Mhm.
focus more on sciences and education, knowledge, make sure people have access to at least have the freedom to have the availability of these resources at your disposal instead of withholding it. And I think that's going to be probably the best utopia that we can try to achieve, at least. But like, in the lost sci-fi realms, in Star Wars, Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica, you think of it, Matrix, Soylent Green can be classified as sci-fi in a way. They're dystopias at the end of the day when you really look at them, because there's usually always something wrong in the underbelly. So there's always caveats to it. So you just need to be careful with utopias because there's always a warning with it. Always a warning
Mhm.
with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. I agree.
Absolutely.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah, but Tiffany now is going to be sharing with us what she's been watching. Take it away, Tiffany.
Right. So up first, what I've been watching is The Wheel of Time season 3. They're on season 3 of this series. I can't believe it. And we're hoping for a season 4. So if you love this series, go ahead and watch it so that they know that people want season 4. Okay. So this the season 3 is so much bigger than season 1 and season 2. I won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but this series is based on Robert Jordan's epic fantasy books. There's several books. This current season is, I believe, based on Shadow Rising. So it's getting a lot crazier for our main characters. This season they added like I don't even know how many, so many new characters, and then they're really focusing on our old characters as well. There's so much more magic this season, in my opinion.
Yes.
It's there's more. The stakes are so high. Like the first season, it was really slow paced, just because I think they were trying to build up. Like I know the first book is really like drawn out till they get to where they're trying to get to. But basically, the premise is that the Dragon Reborn is a character that they're looking for in the first season. They're trying to find this magical person who will fix the world and save them from the dark side. Okay, basically, in layman's terms, they're trying to find somebody who's going to save the world from this dark presence that's trying to rebirth. So the dark presence was born out after the utopian society that I described earlier was broken. This darkness came about and corrupted some of the magical Aes Sedai, which are the magical people in this world. They corrupted some of them and turned them to the dark side. And after that, the men could no longer channel the magic. Anytime they channel magic, they go crazy because of what happened. I won't go into it. I don't want to spoil it. But just
Ooh.
know that they go crazy. So now the Dragon Reborn is come to save the world. There's so much action in this series. The season finale for season 3 is coming up next week. So I think there's only 8 episodes this season. So that's something to look out
Excellent.
for. And so yeah, so
Excellent.
that's what I'm watching right now. And
We want me to go on to the next one?
yeah, if you guys didn't have any questions, of course. All right, so
All
this
right.
one is an anime. And Nita, I love an anime. I love
Yes.
anime. So this is a Netflix anime, My Happy Marriage. So it took me a while to actually watch this. So I did really actually just watch both seasons this week. So only because I was putting it off because I didn't think I would like it. Because I'm not really into the romance anime genre, but it was so good. There's so much like magic. So in this series, every the noble families or higher born families are born with powers. The people in their families are born with powers, And so there's also these things called grotesqueries, like demons that roam the world, but only certain people with powers can see them. So they have a whole military that fights the demons. Okay. And this young girl, Mio, she marries into this well-to-do family, coming from her family where she's treated as a servant. That's all I'll say. She's not supposed to be a servant, but they treat her as a servant. Okay.
Mm-mm.
But there's so much more to her that they don't know about that she discovers. So it's a story of love, it's a story of discovery. There's magic, there's demons, and it's anime. So yeah.
Yes.
It's really good though. It's really good. Yeah, I binged the whole thing in like 2 days.
I like to call Tiffany the Sci-Fi Reader's Digest TV guide. Okay, she gives us all the recommendations.
I'm gonna watch it all. If it's on my, it's everything's probably on my list. Definitely, there's a
Yes.
list. I try to watch at least 3 shows a week if I'm binging. So I can get through it though. I love to do it. Love to do it.
Okay. Before we go into podcast recommendation, we're kind of flipping the switch here with Sci-Fi Queens. We used to do book recommendation and podcast. We're going to do one or the
Mhm.
other to give me a little bit more time to read the books. I don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
rush through
yeah.
it. And I read the books in completion because I don't want to
Hmm.
not know what I'm talking about. I don't give bad recommendations. So if I'm reading a book and I'm not enjoying it, I will move on to something else. I will not give an offer a bad recommendation.
Yeah,
That is, yeah, because it's
yeah.
just my opinion and they don't
Hmm.
need that.
Yeah.
But before we go into podcast recommendation, I'm going to do something a little different. This is a book by another podcast group called The Earth Station Trek. This book is called The Earth Station Trek Guide to Star Trek. And I'm going to talk about it next week because I love it. It's Keith, Charles, Alan, they're all in here giving their thoughts, talking about Trek. I love when a podcast grows and expands beyond their original ideas. So we're going to talk about our
Hmm.
friend's book. I'm finishing it up this week. It's going to be lovely. So stay tuned next week in our next podcast for that. But let's get into the podcast recommendation. All right, let's bring this on. Now, I love this podcast I've recommended them before, but I didn't want to change them because I really like them and I wanted more audience to know about them. And it's called the Science Fiction Review Podcast. They do a lovely job. So great, so articulate, so wonderful. They give great sci fi book recommendations and they talk about them and they really break down the story in such a wonderful way. I really think you guys need to check them out. They're not a huge podcast, so give them some love for sure. And we also have here Clone Star Podcast. The Clone Star Podcast discuss all things in the Star Trek universe. And they do an episode that talks about the women in Star Trek Voyager. So anywhere a podcast is elevating women in science fiction, we're going to tell you to watch them. And they do a wonderful job. Lots of fun watching them. And they just have wonderful guests on there as well. And I truly recommend that you guys check them out. And before I go on to letting you know when our next episode will be, Tiffany or Corey, do you have anything you want to share? Corey, I know you got some stuff to share. I told you need to share it. I'll put you on blast. Share it, brother. You know you want to.
So like I am in the process of creating my own podcast. It's going to essentially just be a celebration of just me being a nerd. I'm going to talk a lot about sci-fi, the importance of science fiction, and my gaming habits, and just anything in life that I feel like it's about the use of AI in the world. So for now,
Awesome.
I'm just on TikTok. Once I am ready, I'll be promoting that on TikTok. Amori's Bowtie Enterprise is my username, sort of like a nod to my username, but also Star Trek and my love of Doctor Who, because Matt Smith is my favorite Doctor. So Bowtie was entered into the name. But I will say, as an announcement, when that comes, I will be posting that. So you'll be seeing me just be blasting everybody, my followers page and my FYP with like, hey, my channel's up. I got my podcast. It's
Well,
on.
you got us here backing you up. When you're up and
Mhm.
ready, you send it to us. We will promote you. We got your back here in the
Thank you.
Sci-Fi Queens. You know that any questions you have, whatever we've learned, we are welcome to share with you and support you in any way possible. Tiffany, how about you? What you got for us? Any last thoughts?
No, no last thoughts. This was a great, like, I love talking about these utopias. Now you make me want to go watch some stuff. I think I'm gonna go watch Divergent series tonight just to feel something. Maybe watch maybe watch the Hunger Games or something. I don't know.
I love the Hunger Games.
Have you read
Hunger
the new
Games
book?
just to feel something.
My wife has been reading the Sunrise of Reaping, and it's been devastating for her. So
I
Oh,
just got that book. I'm going to
don't
read it
tell me.
after I finish with this book.
yeah,
Oh
I
Yes.
haven't read the books. I
Oh,
watched the movie, so I'm just like, ooh, she's telling me about. It's like they did what?
don't tell
But
me I haven't
it's a book.
started.
I
Don't
know.
tell me I haven't started.
Well,
Now we need to do a Hunger Games episode. Jeez.
That's on the agenda here. That's on the agenda. um, absolutely. But thank you everyone for joining us. Corey, thank you for coming. Our next episode is going to be special effects in sci-fi. It'll be April 25th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And we are going to have a very VIP special guest, the founding queen of sci-fi queens, Jace, is going to come with. As you know, Jay started this whole sci-fi
Our
queens,
queen.
our queen's queen. He will be here with us talking about all of the wonderful things that have been done in special effects throughout science fiction history. And that will be April 25th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And I truly hope you all can join us. We thank you, Corey. Thank you, Tiffany. Sarah, we
you.
missed you, but have fun. And we hope that Leah had a great time in her play. And we'll catch you on the flip side. Good night and have a wonderful weekend,
Good
guys.
night.
Thank you for watching the Sci-Fi Queens. And be sure to support us on all our social medias. And check out our website,